right. Thanks, Jake. Thanks for making the trip.
Hey, you got it.
We have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of very unusual things about not just Jake, but also Playmaker.
Good start.
And the way all the unusual things about Jake are great. Okay. I'm going to set the stage a little bit, then let you run with it and throw stuff back at me if you want. But Playmaker was incubated in Relay's office. Jay was the key component in doing so. Sport tech, as everyone knows, is one of our verticals, and thanks to John Levy, who's here at the Score, has made a sort of a brand out of Relay and sports tech around the world now. Jake is incredibly passionate about sports, and so we incubated the company. Jake ran with the idea. He put together a team. He left Relay to run the company. He has equity in Relay. He has equity in Playmaker. He's getting paid at Playmaker. And we did a lot of different things. We did a lot of different things in terms of financing it ourselves, going public, the way you're growing it, the way you're scaling it, the team you put together. I'm going to throw all that at you to talk about what you think is important and unique about Playmaker and how you got to where you are, the growth that you've done organically and acquisition and all that. And I'll jump in, or you can throw stuff back at me.
Okay. Well, yeah, and thank you very, very much for having me here. Yeah, the model was an interesting one, and one that was very fun to be a part of. It was weird times. It was sort of August of 2020. The sports world was completely upside down. Major organizations like MLSE went from $1 billion in revenue to zero overnight. And we were really interested in the sports tech category. We had asked a group of advisors to help us really map out what the thesis was going to be in the broader sports category. And one of those individuals was the now CEO of Playmaker, Jordan Gannett, who came to us with a concept. And I think we had the sort of the open-mindedness and the creativity to get behind it. And I'm proud to say, as a firm, Relay was willing to sort of go off the fairway and spend a disproportionate amount of sort of time and energy to work with Jordan and get it off the ground. And as someone who has been passionate about not only sports, but media, new media, digital media, it was one that I naturally gravitated towards. So, from a model perspective, from a Relay perspective, in exchange for all of that time and energy that we put into it, it came with, a founder position in the company. So from an economics perspective and being on the investor side of the table, it was a really unique and compelling value proposition to get involved with, and one that I think is an interesting model to look at going forward with the right combination of founder, network experience, et cetera. And then so since joining Playmaker and since our kind of go public in June of 2021, we've acquired 16 companies. It was designed to be a roll-up, but I think important, not just growth through M&A. We've driven 70% EBITDA growth, organic EBITDA growth since launching the business. So we're driving M&A, but we're also integrating the business and driving revenue synergies on top of them. When we talk about digital media, Playmaker owns and operates websites, podcasts, YouTube channels. They all sort of exist within our platform media businesses. So in Canada, we have a business called the Nation Network. In the U.S., we have a platform business called Yardbarker. And then in Latin America, we have Football Sites, which is the largest regional sports media group across all of Latin America. And on top of all of that, we have a burgeoning new affiliate business. So we're generating revenue through advertising on our media businesses, both sort of direct sales advertising and programmatic. But then in addition to that, we're doing affiliate revenue, which means every time we deliver one of our users, one of our fans, reading our websites, listening to our podcasts, to a sports book, like a FanDuel, like a Score Bet, we get paid a CPA. So we've got a really diverse set of properties across the Americas, which happen to be the newly regulating sports betting markets. And then we've got a diversified revenue channel now that allows us to. A lot of digital media businesses are fighting for the first dollar at the beginning of every single month when you're reliant on programmatic. We've created a really diverse revenue wheel that's allowed us to be quite profitable and have the 30% EBITDA margins that we have in the business.
So let's talk about that. So you started the company at a time when capital, as Alex Baker talked about at the beginning, capital followed growth, not necessarily gross margin, not necessarily EBITDA, right? And even the Score lived in a world where growth and metrics and MAUs and all that was, the king of deciding what a company's worth. You guys started in that environment.
Yeah.
it changed on you quickly thereafter, but you never got trapped in it. One was like, how did you avoid it? How did you know to buy companies that had positive EBITDA and that had synergies with your exit companies? And then, and how did you target them? Like, how did you end up in Latin America versus Edmonton when you bought the Nations Network?
Yeah. Listen, I think a lot of credit goes to Jordan. From the very get-go, a key piece of the strategy was profitable businesses, and one of the reasons was we didn't want to be a group that was hyper focused on cost synergies. We wanted to be a group that essentially was going to founders of these businesses, entrepreneurs that were running these media businesses, and says, hey, keep doing the things that you love to do, keep writing great content, keep producing great video content. Let us take care of the things that maybe you don't love to do or you're not all that great at. Let us take care of your back office finance, accounting. Let us take care of your monetization. And I think if we had if we didn't focus on profitable businesses, that equation becomes, or that goal becomes a lot harder to attain, because we're going to have to try to find more cost synergies in our business. We wanted to only be focused on how do we drive incremental growth on top of the companies that we're bringing into the platform. But again, from the very get-go, we have the original presentation deck that's on our coffee table in the office, and it's in there too. It's focused on the profitable segment of this market, and sports fans are more valuable today than they were yesterday, and they're going to be more valuable tomorrow than they are today. A big reason for that is this new economy that's being created around sports betting, and so we knew that if we were in the market of aggregating fans, monetizing those fans with endemic and non-endemic advertisers, that we could play in the profitable part of this value chain, and that was the focus from the beginning.
Okay, and why did Playmaker decide to do private round of financing followed by a public offering? The public offering was definitely not done to achieve liquidity. What was the purpose of that? Why did we at Playmaker do that deal, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, it's
Would you do it again?
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's a tough environment as a small cap TSXV company right now. We've created an immense amount of value, and I'm not gonna talk about dislocation of value and all that, but it's a challenge, right? And I think a lot of companies, you've heard a couple companies here today talk about the potential of IPO. Companies go through IPO readiness, they get compliance and controls put in place well before they flip the switch and go public. We threw a smoke bomb and we were a public company.
Right.
Thankfully, we have an amazing CFO in Mike Cook, who's a longtime Relay involved CFO, who has been able to sort of ensure that we've survived and thrived as a public company. But we did it for currency and currency alone. We're buying companies, and it's tough to trade private capital for private capital. A big part of the promise is sort of wealth creation, liquidity, and obviously we have controls in place to ensure that people stick around and they earn the equity over a period of time. But as a private company, it would have been, I would say, impossible to do what we have done, acquire 16 companies in 2.5 years. But it comes with the costs and challenges of being a small cap public company.
Well, you've acquired in companies incredibly well. I think out of the 16, 15 great successes.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you think about, just closing? How do you think about liquidity now? We Playmaker, we're a public company. We are a micro cap company. We will be for a while, certainly in the current environment, no matter what.
Yep.
How do you think about liquidity for yourself, for your co-founders, and for your investors? How do you generate liquidity?
I mean, for myself, it's with the company. It's when the company, finds a liquidity event in the future. And when I started in venture investing in Relay, somebody told me that great companies are bought; they're not sold. And we're focused on building a great company. And I think there's a number of different potential. It'll be through an acquisition of sorts, right? We're obviously not going to re-IPO the business or anything like that. I think there are a few different parties out there that it could be an interesting concept to, and I think very quickly we've put ourselves on a stage. We won the sort of industry-leading sports betting sort of awards gala last year. We won Sports Media Company of the Year. We're the fourth largest by web visit sports media group across the Americas. So a lot of groups are really aware of us now. Whether it's a traditional media company that needs a digital footprint or a digital media company that needs a LATAM footprint. or perhaps it's a a major betting affiliate group that wants to go upstream and have more top of funnel, more sort of broad media to capture more fans at the top of funnel. But it'll be through an acquisition, and who knows? We just got to keep building a great company.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jake.
Okay, thank you.
It's great.